Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at the First Alert Desk. My name's Karli Barnett. We want to give you a look at some of the stories that we are following for your Saturday. I know we're hopping on a couple minutes late here, but we were actually just getting some updates to one of the stories that I was bringing you, so we wanted to make sure we had the latest information on that. Of course, we did not have an early newscast tonight, but you can join us tonight at 10 on Peachtree TV and 11 on WANF, but you can also watch us live wherever you stream Atlanta News First, or watch through our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, or our Atlanta News First app. Speaking of those things, you can always find breaking news updates even when the news is not on. So you can take us wherever you go, and we will get those breaking news updates sent directly to your phone. In just a few minutes here, we are going to have First Alert Meteorologist Cutter Martin join us. He's going to give us a look at the forecast here at home. I know he's also been keeping an eye on the tropics. This is a great opportunity to go ahead and ask him your weather questions, but I did want to let you know what we are working on in the meantime. This is a story that our reporter Blake Devine, he's going to have more on this tonight. I have some video here. This is what we call raw video. So this is just straight from our photographer's camera. They were out on the scene, and this comes after 40 people lost their homes today after a fire swept through this DeKalb County condo complex. I mean, you can just see all the damage right up at the roof there, especially. Crews were called to Ridge Creek Condos. That's on Ridge Creek Drive in Clarkston overnight. So it was around 2 a.m. when they saw heavy flames coming from the breezeway of the apartment. Good news here, no injuries were reported, but right now we still don't know exactly what caused this fire. Investigators still trying to figure out what may have been, what led up to it. But the fire chief saying that they saved as much of the building as they possibly could. The Red Cross has been called to help the residents who've been affected by this fire. And again, our reporter Blake Devine, he went out there, he spoke with residents today. He also spoke with fire investigators. He's going to have more on what they have to say. You see all that ash just out in the parking lot there. At this point, we don't know the condition of the other apartment buildings. We don't know if that's going to result in just a total loss here. But as you can see, I mean, the damage really substantial. There's no roof to this entire building here. So just a sad situation, people having to deal with overnight, losing essentially everything as a result of this fire that happened overnight. And again, you can join us for more a little bit later on this evening on Atlanta News First. The next story that we want to bring to you, this is one that we were just getting that update on. It was a shooting that happened today at the Oakland Park Townhomes, and then that shooting led to a SWAT standoff. Again, this is just raw video from our photographer who was out there on the scene for quite a long time this afternoon. You can see a number of Atlanta police vehicles out there. They said that the SWAT team was called in. They said it was just as a precaution, but from what we know right now, this situation is still unfolding in that the suspect right now is still at large. Police are still looking for the person who did this, but what we do know is, again, this happened at this townhouse complex at 1240 Oakland Drive Southwest. That is listed as the Oakland Park Townhomes after a person was reported shot. The victim was declared dead by medical personnel that went out to the scene. A SWAT team, they said, has been notified out of an abundance of caution. And that's according to Atlanta police. And the scene was active for several hours. What we have learned is that there was allegedly a dispute between two roommates that lived in this townhouse complex, and that fight escalated and one shot and killed the other. The person who is accused of shooting at this time, police have not taken anyone into custody, and we are told that they are still looking for this person. We don't know a description of this person or anything that may have led up to this shooting other than we were told it was some sort of disagreement. But again, we do hope to have updates for you a little bit later on this evening at 10 and 11 on Atlanta News First. But in the meantime, as we wait to get more news from Atlanta Police, we do hope that you will go ahead and download our Atlanta News First app where you can get those breaking news updates. You can see this was a little bit earlier, obviously still daylight out, but we had a photographer on the scene for several hours. We are told that the SWAT situation had ended. However, they are still looking for where this gunman could be. And I wanted to go ahead and give a quick update here for those who live and work in Rockdale County. As you know, Atlanta News First, since last Sunday, we have brought you this breaking news right here on ANF Plus, right here at the breaking news desk. And we wanted to make sure that we kept you posted with any updates that we had been receiving. So at this time, Rockdale County's overnight shelter in place order, keep in mind, was extended through this weekend, according to the Rockdale County Emergency Management Agency. So this has been enacted since last week, and it was meant to expire yesterday at 7 a.m. However, that changed. So residents have been asked to stay inside from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. until Monday, so those overnight hours. The agency also did say that the county's court and government facilities are going to open again starting on Monday. The extended order, they said, comes because the chemical plumes continue to linger over that biolab facility in Conyers since the fire happened last week. And we understand that this sort of kind of keeps popping up. And so that's why emergency officials have said that they are going to go ahead and extend that, particularly for those overnight hours. The shelter-in-place order still in effect. We know that many of you who live beyond Rockdale County, for those of us even here in Metro Atlanta, seeing kind of those hazy skies, maybe getting kind of that tickle in your throat or your nose or your eyes as a result of that chemical plume that still has yet to fully dissipate. We know people still dealing with the aftermath of that. So wanted to make sure we kept you posted. We have several stories on this on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. If you just search this, we have background information on how all of this started. We have the most up-to-date information from officials, and we also have our investigative team that has looked into the fact that this is not the first incident that this facility has had. So again, we have done extensive reporting on this since that fire broke out last week, and you can continue to look there for updates. I see David asking, is the chemical fire out yet? Did anybody die? Thankfully, there were no reports of any injuries. We were told all of the employees were okay. The fire has been out since last Sunday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What had happened was the fire initially started, a very small fire, around 5 or 5:30 in the morning. That prompted the sprinkler to go off, and the water reacted with the chemicals that this facility was housing. When they finally got that a little bit under control, then that fire broke out again. It reignited. They don't know why, but it reignited around noon, and then they had to tackle it again, of course, spraying more water on it, getting more of that chemical reaction, and then the fire was ultimately put out last Sunday around 4 o'clock. What you're still seeing now, when you see it almost looks like smoke in the sky, that's not actually smoke from a fire. Emergency officials explaining that that is still the plume that happened as a result of that chemical reaction. So again, at this time, thankfully no reports of any injuries, no reports of any deaths once this happened, but that is what we are still seeing, the sort of aftermath of the fire that resulted in having to spray water on the fire, causing this chemical reaction. We do also know that a class action lawsuit was filed by a number of residents. So there is a lot of history to this facility. And again, if you would like to read more about it, I do encourage you to go to AtlantaNewsFirst.com. David, watching from California, hey, thank you so much for joining us. And hey, good questions to ask. I know that if you're not necessarily here, you haven't heard all of our updates nightly, but here at Atlanta News First, we have wanted to keep you updated on this since the beginning. We know a lot of people have questions and concerns about that. Hey, Stephanie, I see you're watching. She's watching from Maryland. Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here. All right, I do have one more story that I would like to get to, and was a really exciting event that Atlanta News First helped to sponsor, but it was from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They hosted a pop-up walk at Assembly Park. This is the public green space at Assembly Studios in Doraville. Our very own anchor, Blair Miller, he was the MC, and our Atlanta News First reporter, Sawyer Bussey, she put together this story for us. She is first of all, she's an extraordinarily talented reporter. If you've ever seen her work, she does those stories that pull at our heartstrings, that show the good of the community coming together, people stepping up to help one another, and she tells those stories so beautifully. She's also incredibly kind and a wonderful person, and just a great newsroom citizen. She always makes you feel so happy and appreciated. And so she opens up about her own diagnosis with bipolar and the transparency in which she speaks, the courage to be able to talk about something like this is something truly admirable, and we are so grateful for Sawyer sharing her story with us. If you'd like to see it, our anchor Blair Miller, he tells it very beautifully. That can be found on atlantanewsfirst.com. But of course, they were all out at this walk today addressing the very important topic of mental health. Of course, mental health is health, and we want to continue that conversation. And so here's a little bit more from what took place this morning at Assembly Studios.
I am Nami Walks.
People are making a statement today.
I walk for Nami. I am Nami.
Despite the different stories they came here with, they will walk the next steps together.
We're here beside you, and because we're beside you, you're never alone. As a family, we can all overcome everything. And when we think about the mental health community, we're all one family.
Go, Nami!
Each person has the opportunity to walk for someone, even if it's for themselves.
I suffer with depression and anxiety. So instead of sitting in and suffering in silence, being here, you feel like you're not alone anymore.
Sometimes you're walking for someone who can't be here, someone who you still advocate for, even if it's your son, even if he can't see it.
He was a brilliant young man. He graduated from Woodward with honors. He got a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Berklee School of Music in Boston. At age 40, June 7th, 2021, he succumbed to suicide.
Each person with their story made their way around a field at Assembly Atlanta. The event was sponsored by Atlanta News First.
It's great to have everybody out here today, and when we hear people say, I am Nami Walks, we are Nami Walks.
Getting you to a place where you can feel and see yourself in other people's experiences.
All the way for Nami to the finish line.
Together, the separate stories become one story of unity, of hope. In Atlanta, Sawyer Bussey, Atlanta News First.
Obviously, a great event, a great day, and thankfully, they had some beautiful weather to go along with it. That never hurts. So we're going to bring in our weather pro here, First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin, with more on what we can expect for the rest of our weekend, Cutter. But I also know that right here around 4:30 at the First Alert desk, you were talking about the tropics, and people had a lot of questions.
Yeah, and our forecast, our weather setup actually impacting the tropics. What delivers us cooler weather, sunnier conditions will help steer a developing tropical system. Right now, a tropical storm into Florida, forecast to be a major hurricane. Again, we're going to get set up here. Answer any questions that may be coming in on YouTube. Atlanta News First is the account to like and to follow on YouTube. That's the account that we're streaming in on right now. And again, that's the account I'll be watching for questions to be coming in on. We had a pretty good conversation for the 4:30 p.m. Atlanta News First Plus stream, and hoping to have a similar conversation this go around. So again, we're going to talk about our local forecast, also giving a heads up to those with plans, travel plans in Florida. I know we have some in our very own newsroom that we're planning to head to Florida next week, and certainly the weather setup with a developing tropical system on the way, likely to impact parts of the Florida Peninsula. So I'm going to pull up my weather graphics here. Just bear with me. We'll get things set up because I don't just want to talk. I want to show you what's happening, what's forecast to happen, and that'll probably help better explain what we have going on. Again, the latest on Milton was Tropical Depression 14 earlier, and then upgraded to Tropical Storm Milton. Still sustained winds at 40 miles an hour and still moving north-northeast at 3. You can see parts of the lower Texas coast, the Rio Grande Valley, actually being impacted by the system at the moment. But this is more of an eastern Gulf Coast, a Florida Peninsula sort of impact as we get into our kind of Wednesday, maybe Tuesday night, Wednesday. I think daytime Wednesday, probably the most likely time to see more direct impacts across the state of Florida. Good evening, Stephanie. Good evening, David. to you, and thank you for watching. Again, if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, we're chatting with folks on YouTube. Atlanta News First is the account we're streaming on, and you can also text us 470-777-WANF. Again, that's 470-777-9263. Here is the forecast track. Now, we're going to get a new one tonight just before 11 p.m., so if you stay up late with us, we'll show you that new track on Atlanta News First at 11, though not anticipating too many changes here. Forecast to become a major hurricane and make landfall along Florida's west coast as we get into the daytime hours Wednesday. Most likely a daytime landfall this go around anywhere from the Big Bend of Florida area is very hard hit by Helene all the way down through the Tampa St. Petersburg area. Can't even rule out a landfall as far south as the Naples region. Most likely within that kind of wider range of possibilities, maybe just north of Tampa St. Petersburg, just south, maybe down to Sarasota or so. Certainly the window of most likely impact, the window of most likely direct impact, should say, and then this will travel across the state of Florida, still as a hurricane the entire time, and then kind of merging with a front that's helping to steer this and away from us and keep it south of us here in North Georgia, and that's why you see the L, even though it still has sustained winds of 75 miles an hour, technically losing some of those tropical characteristics, but still a big rain, wind, and wave machine as it exits stage right, heading out into the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. So again, if you have any other questions, comments, concerns, feel free to hit us up on YouTube. That's where we're streaming right now. Also, you can text 470-777-9263. Let's go ahead and talk about the setup, and we'll kind of go back to what we have going on right now, and then as we get to the 7-day forecast, we're going to break down the setup, what is steering this system, and most likely to keep it well to the south of North Georgia and metro Atlanta. Sunshine kind of ruling that weekend forecast. I was a little worried initially that clouds may be more stubborn to lift out and to clear out. But indeed, we had a lot of sunshine today. Temperatures soared into the mid, even some upper 80s this afternoon. In fact, still 79 degrees at 8:24 p.m. in the heart of Atlanta. That number coming from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Cooler, though, on the west side of town. Carrollton is at 69. Upper 60s in Ellijay, 71 Helen, 72 in Eatonton. Thomas and Upson County not reporting, but most likely in the lower 70s as well. So kind of a mild evening out there. Still a nice evening in the first alert forecast. Temperature is gradually cooling. Clouds continue to clear. Just a couple of clouds out there this afternoon, and then now into the evening hours. And we're going to wake up to just a couple of clouds tomorrow morning with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s around the heart of the metro. Again, a little warmer inside I-285. We were so warm this afternoon. Yeah, we have more nighttime than we have had, less daylight, more darkness, just because of the time of year. So temperatures able to fall back into the 60s, but I don't think as cool as the past couple of mornings have been. So we're going mid to upper 60s around the heart of the metro, low to mid 60s a little bit further outlying, and Helen 61. Ellijay 59, Blue Ridge not on the map, but probably in the upper 50s, so cooler up in the North Georgia mountains. Get a medium cup of coffee on your Sunday. Getting that coffee forecast, not bad. No weather woes. You don't need all of that caffeine. Kind of a mild start to the day and warming up from there. Here is your Sunday hour-by-hour forecast. Temperature is already back up to near 80 by noon or so. So a quick warm-up as we get into tomorrow afternoon. A high temperature is occurring between maybe 3 and 6 p.m., probably maybe 4:30 as an average there, and back in the mid-80s, a pretty solid forecast. And it's going to, again, be a warm one. Average high temperature on tomorrow's date, 78 degrees. Tomorrow we're going to 85. Now, today it was even warmer than that. In fact, we should have just gotten an update from the National Weather Service office at Peachtree City. The official forecast high temperature for today, we have the 4:31 p.m. update at 86, and that will probably hold. But we should be, now that we're almost halfway through the 8 o'clock hour, we should be getting an update here pretty soon. But moral of the story, it was warm today. Temperatures peaking in the mid-80s officially. May have squeezed out another degree or so there. We'll hear back here in just a bit from the National Weather Service tomorrow. Maybe not quite as warm, but upper 70s, lower 80s, that's warm for the time of year. Up in the mountains. Average high for Atlanta is 78, as mentioned 85. Average high temperature in the mountains, the lower 70s. Not tomorrow, though. You will be back in the lower 80s. Now, here is that first alert 7-day forecast. Notice how nice the weather is. So we made a couple changes to that Tuesday, Wednesday forecast. Have gone ahead and added a little bit more in the way of cloud cover for our Tuesday and especially Wednesday. Now, we're behind the front by that point. Mornings back in the 50s, low to mid 50s, Friday and Saturday mornings, kind of behind the cloud cover. But at the same time, we're going to be tracking by that point forecast to be major Hurricane Milton moving across the Gulf of Mexico. And this area below pressure, this hurricane, likely to help keep this system, again, forecast to be a major hurricane, away from Metro Atlanta, away from North Georgia. And that is very good news. Of course, no one wants a hurricane. No one, even at this point, wants a tropical storm. The state of Georgia very hard hit. Many in southern parts of the state, coastal parts of the state of Georgia, still without power. So this front likely to keep the system to our south, but unfortunately acting like a highway and steering this right into the Florida Peninsula. Now, the degree of turn, is it more of an easterly movement, more of a northeasterly movement, east-northeasterly, or anything in between? The position of this front will be important. Now, while the core of the system likely to impact Florida, it is still possible coastal portions of the state of Georgia. South Georgia could be dealing with some heavy rain potential as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. North of I-16, 75 and I-16 north of Macon up into North Georgia, Metro Atlanta right here. I think really just some cloud cover right now, keeping rain out of the forecast, and again, continues to look like we're going to avoid the worst of the weather by far here in North Georgia with just some clouds in the forecast, and if anything, kind of reinforcing some of that cooler, drier weather, building it in North Georgia. But if you do have plans in South Georgia, Wednesday, Thursday, if you have plans coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, or even, maybe even North Carolina, coastal portions of the southeast, do keep an eye on the forecast, but Florida still expected to bear the brunt of this major hurricane as we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday of this coming work week. Again, we did a really kind of in-depth, longer duration chat, Atlanta News First Plus at 4:30. Not seeing too many questions in. I want someone saying no, probably about the storm. If you're in Atlanta, not a worry, but something we're watching, of course. Can't completely, forget about it and ignore it, but not really concerned. This is not a Helene setup, steering-wise and otherwise. But if I were in Florida, I would be more concerned about severe, major impacts, coastal flooding, storm surge, and heavy rain, tornadoes, inland damaging winds across the central parts of the state of Florida in particular. Vanessa saying hello, a nice temperature forecast for the next week in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, front is doing us two favors. It's cooling us off, number one, and second, but really should be number one, it's going to most likely keep this developing tropical system well to the south. South of us. I said no because I don't want to go to work. Yeah, I don't think work is going to be canceled this week. Not in Atlanta. Now, if you were in Tampa, St. Pete, if you were in Orlando, anywhere around there, I would already start readjusting and planning on readjusting your schedule next week, but not for Atlanta. Another significant storm, another major storm for the state of Florida. There could be some impact South Georgia, coastal Georgia, heavy rain, increasing tides. Maybe some breezier to gustier winds, but definitely Florida taking the brunt of this one, and it could be a little further south than Helene, Tampa, St. Pete, into Orlando, Melbourne, and then off into the southwestern Atlantic Ocean. But we'll keep an eye on it regardless. Keep you updated right here on streams like this one on Atlanta News First Plus. Also on TV, Atlanta News First on Peachtree TV tonight starting at 10 p.m. That's on Atlanta's CW affiliate. And then tonight at 11 on Atlanta News First, WANF for the late news. We will have that new track then. We'll break down the setup once again. And I'm also about to record a video, put it in the First Alert Weather app, detailing how Atlanta looks to avoid significant impacts from Milton. Again, we'll keep you updated right here.